Alright, how's it going, people? Got a bit of a different one for you today. The usual guys I play with have been a bit busy, so I had to think of something to do by myself. So I decided that I was going to give you my best 5 loadouts for Season 5. Now, I came to the opinion on a lot of these decisions for which guns and which attachments from my own personal use. I've used all the guns in this video to max level, so I've seen like all the different attachments on all of them. And then I also went through all the released notes, basically, by Treyarch, all the little changes and tweaks that they made. Got a load of the information from the website I'll leave in the description if you wanted to have a look yourself, just for a bit of extra info for you, just so you understand some of my decisions. The stats on Warzone, basically, I'll just read them off quickly. If you already know what they mean, my apologies. Accuracy is basically your hip firing. Damage is obviously damage dealt per shot. Range is how far you can shoot before losing accuracy. Fire rate is how fast you can shoot. Mobility is movement speed of you, the player, and the aim down sight speed. And control is basically your recoil, like how much in control of your weapon are you. So now you know that, you can sort of understand what I was thinking when I was making some decisions. Also, yes, I do a mix between Rebirth and Verdansk, just to keep things interesting. And yeah, the new one that came out, the EM2, I haven't had a chance to play with that yet because you need to be like Battle Pass level, whatever. But yeah, that's about it. Give them a try, let me know. It would be quite interesting to see other people's results. So yeah, if you do enjoy the video, just leave a like, let us know. Maybe even think about subscribing. Alright, cheers. Alright, so the first one I put together was for the XM4. So we're going to start off with suppressor. They have in fact made the normal suppressor a bit better. They've reduced the bullet velocity penalty from 15% to 8%. They've also done that on the agency suppressor, but we're going for the normal suppressor on this one, just because of that mobility and control and range. Then we're going to put a barrel on it. I went for the 13.5 Task Force. Is because it's got the damage and the control is really good, and those are like the main two ones that I look for when I'm trying to put a class together. Obviously it's not great for mobility, but we make up for that in a second. So I went for the bruiser grip. That increases the mobility and it also gives, I'm not sure you can see, just like a tiny little bit of control as well. The ammunition, I usually just keep it on the 30. And then I had to pick between a rear grip and a stock. I went for stock just because it seemed to make a bigger impact. And I went for the Raider pad again because it boosts the mobility and it adds just an extra bit of control on it as well. And finally the optic, pretty much just choose what you like, to be honest. With this one I went for the Susat, however the fuck you pronounce that, just because I like the crosshair reticle basically thing, like the cross. For the rest of the class, just in case you're wondering, I'll do the I'll do the Diamati in a second, but then there's the perks, the Semtex heartbeat that you normally use. Alright, and that's the first one, so let me know what you think on that one. What you know about the bird city, let me get it for you there. Heard an anthem for the bill, so let me spit. Watson building on it and I call it like I see it. You can get it if you with it, baby, 81 and shit, yeah. Hit the highway 1, now we headed for the boardwalk. Gotta see me flexing on my passion if you trip. Strawberry chilling on the front side of my t-shirt, playing on my like a tap bill on my lip. What you know about the bird city, let me spit. We headed for the slew when we hop up in the whip. We headed for the beam when we get a little hungry, and we headed for the function when nobody wanna trip. Sipping on that pink lemonade, my name. Hit me with this sponsor, know I'm reppin' where I live. Get it for me 1 time, get it for me 2 times, get it for me thrice, if you know it how it is. Yeah. Check. Enemy team is tracking your position. Alright, and the second one is a bit of a return of a fan favourite, I guess, is the FAR. Now, the FAR's had a couple changes. So basically what they've tried to do with the FAR with this season is make it even more of a short-range weapon. So what they've done for that is they've actually increased the short-range damage and the hip fire while keeping the same mid and long-distance damage. So we're going to take that short range damage into account. Alright, so first things again, got to have a suppressor. If you've used the FAR before, you know that it does have quite a lot of recoil because it fires so quickly. So out of the 2 suppressors, as you can see, agency and suppressor, the normal suppressor has the better control stats, so we're going to go for that. However, obviously, as you can see, it reduces the damage a bit, whereas the agency suppressor wouldn't. So in order to get a bit of that damage back again, we're going to go for the 19.5 Task Force barrel. As you can see at the bottom, it does the best damage, as well as a load of control and adds some range compared to everything else. Although the problem with this barrel is the mobility goes down, so you need to address that again. A couple of changes to the overall attachment choices compared to the XM4. This build isn't going to have a underbarrel. I never put a laser on. You don't need a bloody laser or an optic for this one because the iron sights on the FAR is quite good, and it means that you can have ammunition. What I'm going to go for is a 38 round speed mag, faster reloading and the bigger capacity. You burn through those 25 bullets pretty quickly. Now, as I mentioned for the barrel, obviously it reduces the mobility a bit, so we're going to go for the SASR jungle grip, which has got the best mobility out of all the grips, as well as adds more control to handle that recoil. And for the stock, we're going to go for the CQB pad. It does reduce the accuracy a bit, but as I said, they've increased the accuracy, overall hip fire accuracy, so don't really worry about that too much. And on top of that, it increases mobility the most out of all the other stock, and adds another little bit of control to it as well. So there you have it, there's the finished product. And just to show you for the rest of the class, to pair with the FAR, but my HDR. So then you got like your short range, mid range, and yeah, your mid range, long range type deal. All right, yeah, let me know if you're glad to have it back. Let's see how I get on.
Give me on the good side, baby, with your angle. No, it's just a good time. Tell me what you take. Numbers on the neck, yeah. I'm going lap down. On the set, one set, high tap dance. Spin about the bands.
Hostiles dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Alright, so moving on to the third gun in this video, and as you can see, it's the Cubes, or the QBZ83. Now what Treyarch said about this one is that they said it was probably the most underused assault rifle, so in order to basically spread out the guns which were being used by us players, they decided to increase how good this one was. And to do that, what they did is they reduced the vertical recoil by 10%. Right, to start, as we normally do, we're going to be going for a suppressor. For this time, I went for the agency suppressor, just because it offers that extra damage. And between the two of them, there's not that much of a swing in terms of what they actually do. Now, obviously, we're going to put a barrel on it. That's where you get most of your damage from. The barrel we're going to use is the 15.5 Task Force 1. Again, because that damage, range, and control are all on the up, which is probably the three most important things you should be looking at for a gun. Obviously, the accuracy and the mobility have gone down a bit, but at the back end of the gun, that's when they'll get made up. We are going to put an underbarrel on this one. And so basically I went for the choice which offered the most mobility, as that was what we were lacking in the most, which was the infiltrator grip and the patrol grip. I mean, there's not much between them, but I went for the patrol grip one. Now the ammunition, I didn't have a problem with this. The 30 rounds was good enough for me. Because I'm putting an optic on this one, it just means that you need to choose between a rear grip and a stock. I think personally the best one to use was this Raider stock down here, just because it offers that extra mobility that you're looking for, as well as a small bit of control as well. The scope that I wanted to use, again, scopes is pretty much personal preference, but the one I like to use for this one is the Exile Arms 3 times. Why are all the scopes so hard to pronounce? Alright, so there you have it. Like the other two, just to show you the rest of the class quickly, I just put a pistol with it. So yeah, this is how I got on with it.
Got gas moving in. See what, mark him. Got a loadout inbound.
When I start communicating with my mind, asking about my whereabouts and if you still on mine. But I don't want to hear your questions. You just waste my time. Like where you at? How you been? Are you solo or with him? Can we just chill for a minute? We don't need to do nothing. When you around, I can see.
Moving on then to the gun that's caused me and my mates quite a lot of pain over this last season. Might as well get in on it and do a Krig. So as usual, start at the front with the suppressor. For this one, we're going for the normal suppressor, as you'll see why by the barrel choice in a second. And that barrel is the 15 CMV mil-spec. The reason why I went for that suppressor was because it just had a little bit extra mobility compared to the agency suppressor. And if you see on the stats for this one that it takes off a big chunk of mobility, but it gives you a load more damage, a load more range, and a load more control. However, for the rest of the gun, we are going to be having to make up for that big chunk taken out of mobility. With us trying to get as much mobility as possible from the rest of the gun, the underbarrel didn't offer as much as the rear grip and the stock options did. So looking for a good rear grip, I always go for the SASR jungle grip with the Krig, as it offers the mobility and the control that you should be looking for. For the stock then, I decided to go for the bottom one, the Raider stock. Another option to try would be the no stock option completely. As you can see, the accuracy and the mobility go up a little bit, but for me personally, it never really clicked with me. Give it a go, let us know how it goes for you. I could be wrong. And finally, moving on to my easy to pronounce optics. For this one, I'm going for the Royal and Cross 4 times, which looks like this, which isn't my favorite, But this one I really do like, and as you can see on the left, I'm only 1 kill away from it, which is why I'm going to go for that one. Put my usual bright gold camouflage on it, and there we are, finished. I have to say, there is a lot of options for the Krig, so you can really specialize it into how you play, and what you can see on screen now works well for me, so ideally it'd work well for you as well. But yeah, anyway, there you are. Let's see how I get on with it.
I'm trying to bring it to fruition while these dudes be steady wishing. I be steady in the kitchen, I be cooking, I be shopping, I be flowing, I be spitting, and this shit is impossible. Probably why it is the mission, I be tripping. With the size, let me vent, I be different. From the jump, I been fearing, boy, give me a mic so I can live. Give me a chance so I can breathe. What you need? I need a whole lot of shit before I can say I made it. Whole lot of love from the homies so they play it. Whole lot of chin checks trying to beat me down, seem like I got the muscle, but bitch, I got the kind of take a shit, turn the hope to see the time from the bottle. Shout out to the hometown, I swear I always got them. Spit it for the love, real ones, I can spot them. If you really rockin' with me, then I love you, I'm a mama, I'm a rapper. Out of Watsonville, who would've thought they try to keep us in the dirt, and now they paying the cost, and I'ma stay up for people till we up at the top. I'm talking every drop, it never stop. You gotta love it, it's just me. Whole lot of love, always what it's gonna be. You gotta love it, it's just me. Whole lot of love.
All right, and here we are on the last one. Now, the reason why I left this one to the last is because it's a bit of a controversial one. Now, for a lot of people, I think the FAL is a bit of a love-hate relationship. As you can see in the top right, I do have it to the max level, so I've got on with it all right. But what makes it quite hard is that the first sort of 20-odd levels where you don't have much attachments, it can honestly be a bit shit. And then once you start to unlock more and more things for it, it does get more accurate and more lethal pretty much. And then obviously you got the small issue for some people that it's semi-auto. Alright, to continue the controversial starting, instead of a suppressor, we're going to go for a muzzle brake. And the reason being is that with it being semi-auto, you're not holding down the trigger, so your little red dot isn't on someone else's map for a long period of time. It's a bit shorter because you're just tapping the trigger. If you did want to have a suppressor on it though, I'd probably go for the monolithic suppressor, just because it offers you that extra range and the other two don't really offer you much at all. For the barrel, there's only really one option you want to be picking, and that's the XRK Marksman. As you can see by the stats at the bottom, that's the XRK and those are the other two. So, you know, accuracy, obviously hip firing, you're not going to be hip firing very much, but that range and control, because it does have a bit of a kick to it, so you want that control up a bit. However, as usual, it does hurt the mobility. Now for the underbarrels, there is loads of options, 13 options. It can get a little confusing. After giving most of them a run out, I settled on the tactical foregrip, just because it offers you that big chunk of control as well as mobility. I have to say mobility will get harmed in this one, so that's why as your secondary, it is probably best to run with a go ghost and then run with a pistol, or just, you know, pick up an SMG as you play in the game. I've never really been a fan of any of the grenade launcher things. I just think they're a bit pointless. No changes to the ammunition. Obviously, we don't need a laser. We don't even bother talking about perks. So obviously, you're going to be using this at your long range and your medium range. So because of that, you want to be putting a scope on it. That usually means I end up picking between a stock or a rear grip. I did go for a stock, but I'll show you why quickly. So if you look at the rear grips, you see apart from this one, the other two don't offer any mobility at all. But that one then harms your controls straight away for whatever reason. So I decided on stock. Obviously, you've got the no stock option again, which does offer you a load of mobility. But then, like I covered in the Krig, it does harm you in other ways, like accuracy, range, control all go down. So the only one that increases that control even more and with a bit of accuracy, which you don't even need, is the Forge Tac Stalker. So with you doing a lot of long range shooting with this, I went for a long range scope, the VLK 3x optic. As you can see, the accuracy and the range both go up, but again that mobility and all that control we've been putting on does get taken off a little bit by putting this one on. But it does offer me personally the scope that I like, which is like the really small red dot. Alright, there it is, there's the full thing. If you did want to put overkill and an SMG as your secondary, that works well. But usually I'm thinking by the time it gets to loadouts, I would have found an SMG or a short range gun that I'd like to use anyway. Alright, let me know your opinion then. It is a Modern Warfare gun, so it's not one of the new Black Ops ones. Don't knock it till you try it, give it a go, let me know how it goes.
Enemy UAV overhead. Nice. Send that recon.
Alright, so there you have it. Has taken me quite a long time to sort of test out a load of different attachment options. So, you know, it would be appreciated if you just leave a like. And if you are interested in seeing more like this, you know, subscribe. Our little group also does more sort of funnier things. It's usually just getting slapped about on Warzone. But if you're interested, have a look at some of the other stuff on my channel. Sorted. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.